Who are you going to listen to? My mother used to love Psalm 1. And in Psalm 1, we read that the blessed man or woman is the one who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seats of the scornful, but their delight is in the law of the Lord. And in the law of the Lord, that is the scriptures, they meditate day and night. They love the scriptures and they think about them and ponder about them. And in the world today, we're taught that God doesn't exist. God didn't make the world. God is a myth on a par with fairies, spaghetti monsters, UFOs, and things that go bump in the night. The aggressive so-called atheist Richard Dawkins thinks that teaching children about God is on a par with child abuse, and belief in God is caused by a virus of the brain. And one of Richard Dawkins' quotes is that there's no such thing as good or evil, but just blind, pitiful indifference. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who lived 1844 to 1900, was the one who coined the phrase that God is dead and believed that Christianity was irrelevant. Behind these views, there's definitely an agenda. The agenda is to rid the world of God. Free the world of the God who judges, so that they'll be free to have all the sex, booze, pleasure and sin without the God there is to spoil it. And in John 3:19, Jesus said that this is the verdict, that the light has come into the world, but men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. And in Luke chapter 19, Jesus told a parable about a nobleman who had servants who didn't want him to rule over them, so they sent a message to this nobleman saying, "We will not have this man to reign over us." Aldous Huxley was an English Darwinianist, and he was such a proud proponent of Darwin's theory of evolution that he was called, or was nicknamed, Darwin's bulldog. And he admitted in so many words that they didn't want there to be a God, so that they could have all the sex and pleasure. And listen to this quote. This is from George Wald, who was a Nobel-winning scientist who died in 1997, which is the same year as Diana. He made this statement. He said, "When it comes to the origin of life on Earth, there are only two possibilities: creation or spontaneous generation or evolution. There is no third way. Spontaneous generation was disproved 100 years ago, but that leads us to only one other conclusion, that of supernatural creation. We cannot accept that on philosophical grounds, therefore we choose to believe the impossible, that life arose spontaneously by chance." That is an incredible statement. Rather than believe the obvious, even though it's impossible for life to arise by chance, you choose to believe the impossible rather than to believe in God. That's like the judge who says, "My mind is made up, don't confuse me with the facts." The atheist believes that in the beginning there was nothing, then nothing exploded, then nothing became everything. There's a song, it was by Bob Marley, 1980, called "Could You Be Loved?" and it began with the words, "Don't let them fool you, or even try to school you. Oh no, God is not dead. He's the one who created the world. Non-life cannot proceed from non-life. God created it. The universe didn't create itself. You're not an accident. You are created by God and accountable for God. And one day, the Bible teaches us that you will answer to God for your life. And Jesus teaches in the Sermon on the Mount that we're worth more than animals. The godless tells us that we're on a par with the beast. Jesus says we're worth more than animals. Who are you going to listen to? Listen to God. Be the blessed one, of whom it is written in Psalm 1, who meditates on the Bible day and night. God is not dead, he's alive. And Jesus teaches in the gospel that he came to reconcile sinners who were estranged from God. He came to reconcile us to God, to pay the price for the sins which have made a breach in the relationship between us and God on his death on Calvary. Don't let Dawkins, Professor Brian Cox, Huxley, Nietzsche, or anybody else mislead you about God. The actor Will Rogers said, everybody's ignorant, it's just at different subjects. These people might be clever at what they study, but they don't know everything. Humble yourself before God and he will accept you. The world might tell you one thing about marriage, the Bible tells you what it is. The world tells you one thing about your origins, the Bible tells you that God made you. Who are you going to listen to? If you want to be blessed by God, accept what the Bible says, humble yourselves, come to God, and God will accept you. He's only a prayer away. Who will you listen to? I bid you listen to God. Thank you.